What's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we're back for another one. And tonight I'm joined by the homie Dante Collinelli. It's been a minute. He was here last on that little season preview we did, the roundtable discussion with Doug Lee and everyone. But I just want to plug him first. You can follow him on Twitter at Dante Collinelli. His Twitter is down below in the description. I guess you can say he's my Brawl Network colleague now because we're both on the Brawl Network together, just in different facets. And then you can also find his stuff on Blue Chip Scouting as well as Dolphin Talk. But Dante Collinelli, how you doing tonight, brother?
Doing good. Happy to be back. Always like coming on with you, talking Dolphins football. It's always a good time.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure. And I know everyone in the chat, or at least everyone watching, always leaves learning a little bit more every time you come on too. I want to kick it off right away because it's been a minute. I'm sure everyone who especially watched that roundtable preview show, predictions aside, because I mean, preseason predictions don't mean anything when the context of the season starts to kick in, right? Like, for example, the San Francisco 49ers, right? So anyways, I wanted to ask you, Dante, give everyone your thoughts on not only the state of this defense, the state of the team, but also Tua's first two starts. The floor is yours, good sir.
Well, I got to admit, I think overall the team is a lot better than I thought they would be. I think I was low man on them when I came on last time and we did the season predictions. So I honestly, just generally speaking, I think this is a playoff team, man. Like I really do. I think the way that their schedule lines up, the way that they're playing right now, this is a team that should be in the postseason when that rolls around. And I think one of the biggest reasons is obviously we'll get to Tua, but like this defense is playing out of their God-given mind right now. Like they are just flying to the court. Emmanuel Ogbah is a man possessed. I think he's been one of the best edge rushers in the NFL this season, especially given the context at which he's doing it. Number one scoring defense in the NFL. That's huge. And I just love how, one thing that I love about Brian Flores as a coach is when he figures something out, he just leans into it, right? They figured it out versus the Rams. They were like, what we're really good at? Sending everybody and then, dropping off of that cover zero blitz and doing different things. And then he came in against Kyler Murray. And look, Kyler's a special runner. So Kyler got out of there a couple of times, but it also generated a defensive touchdown again, which ends up being a very important defensive score in a very close game against a good football team on the road. So overall, I think the defense is playing out of their minds. I was super disappointed in their first 2 weeks. I thought they were really poor against New England, really poor against Buffalo. Coaching staff made some adjustments against Jacksonville, and then they adjusted again against the Rams, and things are starting to look up. As for Tua, you and I were talking pre-show. I'm glad you brought me on this week and not last week after the Rams game because, there just wasn't a lot to talk about after the Rams game. They didn't really ask him to do anything. I cover Temple football. That's my day job, or at least the only job that pays me at this point. And they run a very simple spread offense that's very quick, distribute the ball. And I honestly was getting flashbacks to that watching the Rams game. I felt like I was watching a college team. But they really opened things up a little bit in Arizona. He was pushing the ball down the field, deeper throws off of play action. They did run the quick little boot to start the game, but, they started pushing that down the field, when they were getting him out left. They threw a couple of verticals to Preston, to Devontae, a couple of, reads. The one fade route that he threw to Parker, he overthrew it, but it was a good read pre-snap and kind of adapting. He threw into blitz coverages a couple of times, some nice dump offs. So, a lot of good stuff from Tua, a lot of good stuff from the defense. It's honestly hard to imagine this team playing any better right now. It's just like, this is like, I think I tweeted this during the Rams game. It's just like a perfect storm of everything possibly going right. Coaching staff is adapted and been much better. I'm still on the fence about Chan Gailey, but, we'll see. It's a long season. He just got a new quarterback, basically. But I'm really impressed, man. They're a lot better than I thought they were. I hope they keep it going.
Yeah, Emmanuel Ogbah right now, he's fourth in the NFL in sacks with 7. And he's making me look good because I actually predicted him to have double-digit sacks. That was one of my preseason predictions. And I know, especially in a scheme, that basically doesn't predicate pressure off individuals. It predicates pressure as a unit. I don't know if you'll agree with this, Dante. Have you seen it too? Because I know you watch the All 22 weekly like I do. is it just me, or hasn't Shaq Lawson, since he come back since injury, really all of a sudden turned it on?
Yeah, he's been better. He was one of the guys I was disappointed with early in the season, man. Like he just could not set an edge for his life the first couple of weeks of the year. And I agree with you. I do think he's been much better. Obviously, he had the touchdown return last week, which was fun. So, yeah, I think he's been much better. He looks more like the player he was for the Bills before he came here. You know, somebody who's just a solid pass rusher. You know, he's a good run defender. He looks more like that player. I think he probably just needed some time to acclimate. You know, maybe, you know, he was a little bit dinged up and then he got really hurt. So the time off kind of helped. But yeah, I would agree. I think he looks much better right now.
I gotta ask you too, because I know Kirk Merritt, he only had like one snap last week and it was like in a run block situation. It doesn't look like he's been called up. We'll get into who's been called up in a second, but Preston Williams is now on the IR. It's starting to look like they brought up some of those guys. I mean, we can both agree. Mac Hollins is where he's at on this team because, I mean, if you follow the training camp reports, it was the chemistry him and Tua were developing, right? If you look at Kirk Merritt, that's why they're hanging on to him, because they started to develop chemistry, right, as it goes along. Malcolm Perry is up and being used because, again, all the highlights we saw, whether it was throwing the football from Tua, a lot of them were to Malcolm Perry, and it was evident in every training camp report. I got to ask you, how big, and we'll get into, they're involved in our keys, how big is it going to be for one of these guys to emerge now that Preston Williams is on the IR? And it's like we get Austin Jackson back off of it, and now Preston goes on to it. And you saw, I mean, up until he went out, Preston was pretty much being a highly utilized target into his first starts. And then DVP started taking a lot of those targets, and albeit to DVP's favor, he did, I thought, a lot with the targets when he got them. But who do you see stepping up, and or do you see it as a unit? All these guys are going to have to step up for DVP, for Preston being out on IR now.
I think it's going to have to be a unit because there are two receivers on the Dolphins who do what Preston Williams does, and the other one's Devontae Parker. You know, a lot of the other guys, whether it be Kirk Merritt, Lynn Bowden, Malcolm Perry, those are, you know, speed, gadget, slot receivers. They're not Preston Williams. And honestly, I prefer that prototype receiver to Preston Williams, but Preston Williams is a marketably better player than all of those guys. So the only guy who really has a shot to replace Preston Williams is Mac Hollins, who we saw kind of do that on the fade route, right, to cap off that 92-yard drive.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And you know what, this is off topic per se, but like what I loved about that play is that was a run play. The offensive line run blocked, and the coaching staff trusted Tua to look and see cover one and throw the fade route at the front pylon. That's the type of stuff that gets me excited. And again, that also comes back to your point about the chemistry that he built up with Mac Hollins, right? If Tua doesn't trust Mac Hollins, he's not going to throw that football, right? So he does, and I think that's going to be important. You know, I think it was Kyle Krabs who he does Dolphins Wire. You know, he kind of tweeted out this really good piece about how, you know, the Dolphins offense probably won't change that much with Preston missing. You'll just see them kind of distribute the ball more and run different plays. You know, DVP will probably eat up, you know, a lot of those outside targets. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt. My hope, I don't think they'll do this because they're weird about the way they use their tight ends, but my personal hope is that they would use Mike Gesicki outside and let him run some 9 routes against some cornerbacks. But I've been pretty disappointed in his usage this year, so my hopes are not high for that. But
well, my friend, how many times were they in 11-man personnel because Gesicki was out on the boundary? You saw it. They were starting to do it more on Sunday. The thing is, he's just not getting – here's what I don't get, Dante, and I've been saying this since the Bills game. You go look at the Bills game, especially that fourth quarter. Fitz and Gesicki kept us in that game. Yep. Gesicki should be – I've been an advocate. Don't tell me why Gesicki shouldn't be getting at least 8 targets a game.
I agree.
It's ridiculous. If you're going to throw the ball 28 times – 8 of those should go to Gesicki, distribute the other 20. He's just such a matchup nightmare. How many guys have an Eric Rowe where they can erase a tight end when you have him in that rover spot? You know, not many, right? So, like, come on, man, utilize it. And I'm just surprised coming from where Flores came from. He's not utilizing more. But let me ask you this, because, guys, if you didn't know, the thing Dante does at Blue Chip, he does player evaluations. You can go check out. But then for the Brawl Network. He also does his podcast, Draft Brawl. And I want to get your thoughts on this quick while we're on the wide receiver topic. I'm all in with, if we don't get a Parsons or a Panay Sewell, or a Dylan Moses, up there, up near the top in that top 15. I'm all in on, even if we do that second first round pick, I'm all in using one of those first round picks, hopefully the second round pick. The second first, on a weapon, more specifically a wide receiver. I got a couple things for you. I've been, Devontae Smith, we can make the argument he's Tua's favorite target ever. He's so dynamic. Just needs to put a little bit of weight on him. That's all. Jalen Waddle, let me ask you this. Do you think because of that injury, because I've heard that he might be able to, like, if he wants to, take part in the combine, do you think he's going to slip now into like the back half of because if let's just put it this way. If we get into the playoffs and we pick 24-ish and Jalen Waddle is sitting there, is that something like I want to get? And same with Rondell Moore, but I can sell you 5'10", 185 more than 5'9" at Rondell Moore size, right?
Right.
And I love Rondell Moore. I've been saying all the time, if he was 6 foot, he would be wide receiver 1, no questions asked.
Yeah.
Are you all in on getting a receiver high in the draft, whether it be the second, first round pick or whatever? And do you think Jalen Waddle might slip a little bit and he might be sitting in our lap right there?
I'm all in on getting a weapon. Yeah. My biggest problem with this offense is, and I'll use the technical term, is they ain't got no juice. There is nobody on this team, and like Parker and Williams are great possession receivers. Mike Gesicki is a fun matchup guy, right? Like he's dominant over the middle, he bodies dudes, but like, man, Hakeem Grant is fun, right? Like, but he's just not consistent enough for me. And like this team just desperately needs speed. Somebody who separates at will. Just somebody.
A natural separator.
Yes, please. Somebody who runs like, under a 4.5. And it's just, and again, like they have good pieces. Preston Williams, Devontae Parker are very good, but like, can you imagine how much better they would be if there was somebody in the slot who ran like a 4.3, who could take safety's eyes away from them, cut the defense over the top? I mean, come on, man, that would be fun. And you talked about Jalen Waddle. That would be my top guy, either him or Rondell Moore for the Dolphins. I know a lot of people have mocked Jamar Chase to the Dolphins, and that's fine.
Overrated.
I get it. It, but I agree. I think we're much better off getting somebody like Jalen Waddle or Rondell Moore.
You want a hot take?
Shoot.
I'll take Rashad Bateman every day and on Sunday over Jamar Chase. And
wow.
I won't even question it.
Okay.
Jamar Chase, if you want my honest opinion, but we don't need him, right? Because if you look at his size and what he is, to me, Jamar Chase is my wide receiver 1, bro. Rashad Bateman's my wide receiver 1.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I dig it. I think, honestly, for me, assuming health, there's like 5 guys at the top where like I think you could take them in any order and I'd be okay with it, quite frankly. It's that type of a receiver class. But I really would like to see them go out and get Jalen Waddle. I don't know how far he slips. I don't think that injury was as bad as everyone initially thought, which obviously is good for him.
Yeah.
But he would be my perfect pick.
Same. For this him or Devontae, because that chemistry.
Yeah, Devontae would be nice too. I really like Devontae. I just have a couple questions about like because he's such an outlier, like so that as a scout, right? Like we're trained to, evaluate players, and red flags are supposed to be something that pop up to us. I don't know how fast he is. 1. And 2, his body type has historically not been successful in the NFL. And again, I don't put a ton of stock into those things. Look, Devontae Smith's a top 15 player for me. I think he's really freaking good. But again, there are some inherent problems with drafting him. But if we end up at like pick 24, I think Smith's a more potent option at 24. I don't think Waddle makes it that far, whether he's injured or not.
I like that. You really,
yeah. I don't think so. We saw Henry Ruggs go at 12 to the Raiders last year as the first receiver off the board. I don't think Jalen Waddle makes it that far in a year where we, again, have more really good receivers, but he's unique. Rashad Bateman's fun, and he's really freaking good, but he's not fast. Jamar Chase is, he's all right. Rondell Moore is
saying we don't need, right? Rashad's a boundary guy. Like,
right.
We we have a Bateman and a Devontae or a Preston. I'm not saying like talent wise. I'm just saying a prototype, right? Like that's why we don't need him, right? Like I agree with you. We need that speed,
Yeah,
and but we also need, because you were talking about like about taking safeties with you. The problem is, so we need someone who's reliable, and that's why we go to Jakeem Grant. Yeah, you got the speed, but you're not reliable. You're not.
exactly.
No one's afraid of you, right? Like that's the
Exactly.
thing. But here's the thing. Can I be honest with you too?
Shoot.
I think we need two speed guys, brother. Because
Okay.
I think this offense is going to become more horizontal as we go along.
Well, I think you hope, right, that like Lynn Bowden or Malcolm Perry would be the second guy, right? At least like one of them pans out. You know what I mean? Like I think that's probably what the Dolphins are hoping, but I agree. I think two would be, obviously
Albert
preferred.
Wilson, brother.
Yeah, I forgot about him. That's a good one. Yeah,
That
you're right.
I was all out on them, but now I see how this offense is going. Because
Man, he'd
what I've
be
been
good.
saying is we need now. The guys we're looking for now are three things. I've just put a simple criteria: natural separators, and then dynamic yak guys, and go horizontal and then vertical when the ball's in your hands. Right, like that's the type of prototype I think we're going to need now, especially if this team goes RPO.
I agree. And you can almost see it in Tua's play, right? Like there hasn't been a lot of trends in his play so far, but one of them that I've noticed is that when he's throwing vertical routes, he tends to put the ball on the outside shoulder because he's used to leading guys who are open,
Yeah,
right? And he's starting to adapt to throwing on the inside shoulder where Devontae Parker and Preston Williams can go body a dude,
yeah.
right? Like because he's missed a couple of vertical throws that I think he probably will hit in the next couple of weeks, because he's adapting throwing to those balls, especially in the first game. The first ball that he threw to Preston was open. He had a great inside release. He got that inside track, but he's not separating from that corner. Tua
Mhm.
throws the ball at the front pylon like Preston's going to run
Yeah,
by
yeah,
that
yeah,
guy,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he just did not, right? So it's just like kind of adapting there. But man, I agree. They need some juice on that offense because they don't have any right now. Nobody scares me. You know what I mean? Like Parker and Preston are good players, but they don't scare me. Like they're not going to break a game typically. Parker might, but Parker has usually one or two games a year where he's just insane, right? Where he goes up and he makes like some crazy catch in triple coverage, but he doesn't consistently scare me down the field. Jalen Waddle, Rondale Moore have the potential to be that type of player. So I'm all in on that with the Houston pick. Honestly, if Sewell's not there, I would prefer a wide receiver to a linebacker as well. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I think it's a good linebacker class. I think we can go deeper. It's a good receiver class too, but Waddle for me and Moore, or if Moore is healthy and he does get on the field, I don't know what. There's some weird things going on at Purdue. We won't get into that, but if you can get those guys and they're healthy, I would prefer them to a linebacker like Parsons, honestly.
So you want Nick Bolton in the second round is what you're trying to tell me right now.
Yeah, I think so. Him or
Oh boy.
if Chaz Surratt
Chad
makes it that
Surratt,
far,
North
yeah,
Carolina. Yeah.
yeah.
That kid's a beast too. Okay, so let me ask you this then before we get into everything. Now that you're starting to see the draft unwind, you're a draft guy, draft specific guy. Now that you're seeing the draft kind of play out, would you change the grade on what the draft was? And let me get your thoughts on Noah Benogany too.
Honestly, I don't really remember off the top of my head what I gave the doll. I think I gave it a B minus. So I don't think I'd change it, quite frankly. I think the only pick that I really uh missed quotation marks missed on was Solomon Kinley. He's been better than I thought he was going to be, but I also ranked him exactly where he got drafted, so I don't know if that's considered a miss or not. But yeah, I don't think I'd change it. I expected Tua to be good. He looks good. Austin Jackson has been better than I expected, but he also looked really bad against Arizona. So we'll see if he's inconsistent or if it was just a one-off. Um, to Igbenogany specifically, I struggle with that because I feel like the kid was thrown to the wolves when he shouldn't have been, and I think the coaching staff really just left him out to dry, and I think it really reflected badly in his play. Because there are some people on Dolphins Twitter who thinks he's played well this year. I don't think that's the case. I think he's actually been quite bad. And again, I know that that's a controversial take, and you can go play for play and find good plays, but I think the body of his work has been underwhelming this year. But you have to remember he's like 20 years old. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And he's has not played corner for a long time.
Like
So
2.5 years, right?
yeah, so like when he was picked that high, that's why I was hesitant about that pick. It's got nothing to do with talent. Igbenogany's got talent for days. It's just that like he's so raw, and then they asked him to like start
Yeah.
right out of the gate, and then he got burned. Stephon Diggs took him to town in week 2. That was a beating. Oh Lord, that was bad. And then he forgot to cover a dude against the Jaguars. They got lucky. Gardner Minshew.
Lockett gave him the business a couple times
Yep,
on some break
exactly.
parts too, right?
It was, he was partly responsible for that one Hail Mary play to David Moore in the Seahawks game that him and the safety screwed. They both screwed up. That was just a complete disaster. But again, like he makes a ton of mental errors, but he's young. So I don't want to kill the kid yet, obviously, because I think he's supremely talented. I'm not giving up on him. I think he's going to be a good player. I think he can be a good player. I just like right now, I don't think he should be on the football field. Like
Yeah.
just let him sit, let him learn. Nick Needham hasn't been particularly good either, so we'll see. But I don't know. I think Igbenogany just needs time.
Hurts
I think he got
hurt
thrown to the wolves.
hurts too when Antoine Winfield Jr. was sitting right there.
Oh, dude, we talked about this pre-show too, man. That hurt. Every time he makes a play, I get sick. Like
Brother,
it's just so bad.
I saw him on Twitter. I was scrolling and I saw he got named mid-season defensive MVP, rookie
Oh
defensive
no.
MVP by the NFL, and I was like, oh, I almost like
Oh man.
jumped off my roof. But to fairness, I mean, me and you were both hard on Bobby McCain preseason. To be fair, we're kind of eating crow because Bobby McCain's been pretty good this year.
Yeah, I tweeted that like a couple of weeks ago. I was like, I'm proud to admit when I'm wrong, especially about the Dolphins, because usually when I'm wrong, it means the team's playing well. Bobby McCain's been much better. He was absolutely terrible the first 2 games of the season. I mean, like he
Yeah.
couldn't cover a statue the first 2 games of the year, and then all of a sudden he just like turned it on. But again, like they adapted the defense, and that's something that I'm like really happy with Brian Flores about because like honestly, after week 2, I was like really worried that our head coach was another stubborn guy who wasn't going to adapt his schemes. But like because we were getting fried in man coverage, like we just couldn't cover dudes, and obviously Byron was injured and that hurts. But they started playing more zone, and all of a sudden we stopped giving up so many big plays. And Bobby's been a big part of that. He's played much better. So
Yeah.
I don't know if something clicked into place for him as far as he's getting used to playing safety, or if he's healthier, or whatever it may be. But I'm happy to be wrong about that one, man. Bobby's played much better.
And even Josh Boyer as a defensive play caller, you could tell like the first couple of games of the season, it seemed like he was calling the game from a couple steps behind, and now he's starting to get ahead and he's finding his rhythm and just in terms of calling. And I agree with you with the zero blitz, though I will say there were a few times, like especially on that Christian Kirk, when inside leverage was given where we got diced on the,
Yeah.
but I mean it is what it is. You take the good with the bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're gonna cover zero blitz as much as the Dolphins do, or I don't know how much of a trend this is going to be. Obviously, the last 2 weeks it's been a lot, but I mean, look, if they're going to do that a lot, we're going to get burned a lot too. Like that. That's just the nature of the business. The cover zero is a roll of the dice. High risk, high reward call, right? Because you're sending everybody, and cover zero designates there is no safety back there. So if you get beat on the outside, or because Byron Jones got beat by Christian Kirk and he got run right by, it's going to be a touchdown every single time with a competent quarterback not named Jared Goff. So that's going to have to be a side effect of running so much cover zero. I don't know if that was because that's obviously it's something they saw against the Rams, right? Like obviously that was the game plan that week. And then they came out and did it less, but still a lot against the Cardinals. So I don't know if that's just the defense now or if it's a 2-week trend. We'll see. But again, like they're going to get burned once in a while. It's going to happen. It's the nature of the beast when you blitz like that. So we'll see. But right now it's working out for them, I think, right? I think more positive than negative so far. So it'll be interesting. I'm really curious to see if they keep doing it. But I agree. I think Josh Boyer's been better. They're playing more zone too, which I really appreciate. Again, I love man coverage. That's the future of the NFL. You need good man coverage players, but if you're getting beat in man coverage, you can't run man coverage
Yeah.
95% of the time. So dialing it back to like 80 has been really nice.
Mhm. All right, man, let's get into it. Let's get into the preview aspect of the show. So just to start everyone off, guys, if you didn't see yesterday, Lynn Bowden Jr. was officially activated off the reserve COVID-19 list, and Matt Cole, Kyle Van Noy, and Christian Wilkins were all placed onto the list. And then if you move forward today, COVID keeps rolling through the Miami Dolphins right now. Report comes out today, Robbie Brown, Colby Smith, Marion Hobby, and Austin Clark, all coaches, positional coaches of the Miami Dolphins, going to be out. This is going to be Robbie Brown's second week out, and that means tight end coach Chris Godsey is going to be basically running things on the field. I got to ask you, because I know you watch the broadcast too, as well as the All 22, obviously, Dante. Were you impressed about how involved like I was, Gotsy was with Tua every time, even when the defense was on the field and they would cut to them, they were nose deep in the iPad. It was actually kind of impressive to me. I don't know what you thought about it. I just want to get your thoughts.
I mean, I was just impressed with the coaching staff in general, right? And just how they handled the situation of missing a coach. Seems like they're going to miss, like you just showed, a couple more this week. I don't think that's easy for anybody. So yeah, it was great to see him over there with Tua learning and just kind of as if there was nothing wrong, right? Like that's what you want to see from the staff. I can only imagine if that was like Adam Gase, right? Like he'd be like off to the side, sitting on the bench by himself. You know what I mean? Like, so it was good to see that. I think as a coaching staff in general, and obviously we don't know what they're talking about down there on the bench, right? Like they could be, we don't know what the heck they're looking at, but it's
We
good to
talk
see.
about their Friday night for all
Exactly,
we know, right?
right? Like it's a good sign though, the way that they handled it. It seemed like, everything was smooth. I think a lot of people don't realize how involved some of these assistant coaches are in things like personnel groupings and substitutions and stuff like that, and just kind of like the bells and whistles of playing the game of football. I think a lot of that is lost on fans. And the Dolphins didn't look like they missed a hitch, which was good. So again, they're going to have more coaches out this week. So we'll see if there are some other problems. But I mean, I imagine, Brian Flores is, he's very intact with everything. So I don't think we'll see any problems. But yeah, I agree. I think it was nice to see him get involved with Tua on the sideline. Obviously, that's the type of stuff you want to see from your coaching staff.
Yeah, and just like, helping the young man out, right? Like not leaving him high and dry and just worrying about your own. And honestly, it shows his versatility, right? A bit being able to do that. So gotta appreciate that. And guys, I don't know if you saw, but today it came out that Benito Jones and tight end Chris Myrick, they've been elevated from the practice squad as COVID replacements. And because they're COVID replacements, that's why Benito Jones is being allowed to be used more than the allocated 2 times that a practice squad player can be elevated before they have to be signed to the 53-man roster. So again, Benito Jones and Chris Myrick. And Dante, were you being sarcastic or he said this guy's like Myrick's my guy? So I have to assume he's being sarcastic. Otherwise, he's calling it like how he did with guys. I don't know if y'all have been watching Zach Wilson, but Dante Collinelli was the first person I saw anywhere talking about that kid, and he's popping off. So if he's talking about Chris Myrick like this, we got to see what's up with Dante Collinelli, bro.
I was like kind of kidding. Like Myrick is he went to Temple, which is where I go to school, and obviously I cover that team. So I covered Chris when he was in college, and like he was just a nice guy. Like he was always a great interview, and he like never caught the ball at Temple. Like he was pretty much an extra tackle for Temple, and he was just such a nice guy. Like I always liked interviewing Chris. So like anytime he gets called up, I'm like, Chris, like it's nice to see him get a chance to play. But I actually think he's a good blocker, all things considered. Like I think, I mean, I think he brings some value in that area. I'm assuming he's going to play special teams on Sunday, and that's where we'll see him. But like, I do think he's a good blocker. So I was kind of being sarcastic about that, but I do really like Chris. He's a nice guy. As for Zach Wilson, man, I have never been more right about a quarterback in my life. I'm gonna have to write this on my tombstone, man.
Oh my god, this guy's gonna have a picture of him and Zach Wilson with his arm around him on his tombstone.
That's right, man.
There you go. So the injury report, because there's some interesting names. You go when you look at the Miami Dolphins for this week. So Matt Breida is questionable, Jamal Perry's questionable, Durham Smythe is questionable. A bunch of others, went through limited practice or did not practice at one point or another, but they've been practicing since. Here's the interesting part. When you go to the LA Chargers, Dante, I mean, Brian Beluga, if he's not going to go, that's a pretty big loss for their offensive line. Justin Jackson has forced Kalen Ballage to be called up. I mean, if Trey Turner can't go, that's another huge loss to their offensive line. But Justin Jackson, I believe Eckler's still on IR, if I'm correct. So Justin Jackson's out. So that's been Kalen Ballage. And the kid who I wanted, who's kind of starting to get forgotten about, Joshua Kelly, will probably be manning the backfield. And then the big name is Joey Bosa is officially out. So, I mean, we only got to worry about Melvin Ingram, and I think we can both agree Melvin Ingram is nowhere near as dynamic as a kid like Joey Bosa is. So that's a pretty big loss for a team that's already missing a guy like Derwin James, right? So you look at these injuries, Dante, specifically Joey Bosa. I mean, how big of a loss is that for them, and how big of a gain is it for a guy like Tua, do you think?
Oh, I mean, it's huge, right? I mean, Bosa's, probably what, a top 5, 7-ish pass rusher in the league, depending on who's healthy and who isn't. So obviously that's huge, and it's especially huge given the way the offensive line played last week, which we were talking about on the pre-show was not great. So anytime you can get Joey Bosa out of the game, obviously you'll take that. He's an absolute animal on the outside. He's a fantastic football player. The other injuries that pop out to me here is the offensive line ones. Both Bulaga and Trey Turner are two guys who are pretty good players. I think, fringe Pro Bowl type offensive linemen. There's a tackle. I think he's the right tackle, Trey Pipkins. He is terrible. He's one of the worst starting tackles in the NFL. My buddy he does the Draft Brawl podcast with me, Saray Poole. He's a Chargers fan. And he and I we just laugh about Trey Pipkins constantly. He is really bad. He went to Sioux Falls College. He should have been an undrafted free agent. I think the Chargers took him in the 3rd round, and he's the starter. So
wow.
If he goes, right, and I'm assuming that if Bulaga plays, he will not play. But if he does, and he's played the past couple of weeks, I expect Emmanuel Ogbah to have like 3 sacks. So those are the injuries that stick out to me, are the offensive line ones. Obviously, Bosa being out is really, really good for the Dolphins. I don't want him anywhere near Tua, preferably. But Melvin Ingram's still good, so I think they can still generate some kind of pass rush. But the offensive line injuries for the Chargers this year have just been devastating. I mean, Herbert's getting battered back there. Not as badly as Burrow, but he's still getting killed back there too. So a lot of big injuries for the Chargers this week, man.
Yeah, and I was actually, when we get into our keys, I was going to talk about them, but I'll talk about them now. Yeah, I was going to highlight Trey Pipkins a little bit because this is a guy who he's already allowed 19 pressures, 3 sacks, 14 hurries, and 2 hits. And he's got 3 penalties as like the cherry on top. So, I think when I was looking at PFF, if I remember correctly, he was either the 74th or the 75th graded tackle from PFF. But again, I've said this before, and you can back me up because you're just like me. You're all about that all 22, Dante. My thing with PFF, my friend, is how are those grades coming out before the all 22 does, bro? Because there's a few instances from last weekend where you didn't even see the formation because the ball snapped because they're like focused on Tua, and then it like panned out and like the play had already started. I was like, PFF. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I ever told you, one of my PFF stories is because I was going through to get one of those positions with them or whatever, and they send you film so you can It was charting basically positions for every player on the field, offensively and defensively for each team, like how many snaps they would play at each spot. And the LSU, they sent me the national championship game, the LSU game, bro. They sent me the broadcast footage.
Really?
I'm like, are you? And I did this over the summer, man. The game had been done for a minute, and I was like,
Wow.
is this for bro? Third play in. They're just focusing on Burrow up until the ball's even in his hands, and then they pan out. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, how are you guys grading this? Like, this is ridiculous.
Man.
Because, especially for the trenches, I need to see criteria too, my friend. Not only do you need to be watching the all-22 for that stuff, that goal line, that I call it the God view, right? That's if God is watching the game.
I like that.
Right? So, like, same thing, bro. I need to see criteria on top of all this. Like, I don't get this, man. We need to create a new system because this is flawed. We can get someone else instead of Chris Collinsworth invest in us.
I think it's like, I don't even like, how do they do the college ones so fast? That's the one that, like, that's the stuff that creeps me out, right? Because like Zach Wilson will like play a game on like a Thursday night, and the next day they'll have PFF grades, and I'm like, dude, the all-22 I don't even think the coaches have the all-22 from this game, and you're really gonna give me a passing grade on a quarterback? And like, I don't know. I like PFF to a certain extent, but like obviously film is king. I think you and I agree on that. I don't know how they do it. I don't know if they have like some kind of system or whatever it is that they get all 22. I mean, like, I have national championship game all 22. I probably shouldn't say that out loud, but
So do I, bro. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
So I went in there, used the all 22 I had, bro. I was like, what is this nonsense?
Yeah. So I don't know how they do it, man. That's actually a good question. I never really thought about it like that.
Unbelievable, bro. Like, ridiculous, man. So because here's a perfect example. They were 110% right with their grade, and let's talk about like non-weapon positions. Their grade was pretty right on Jerome Baker on week 1 in terms of they still graded him poorly because he didn't play that good outside of the 16 tackles. We can all agree with that. Right. And some of those tackles are what good's a tackle when it's 5 or 6 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, right? and the guy you're engaged with disengages because the guy's running past you. You know what I mean? Like, what good is that? So, anyways, here's the thing: a player I think they've been actually really hard on is Landon Roberts, because he's actually been getting better and better every week, and they've been grading him like in the 40s and like and I'm like, yo, come on, man. Like, Landon Roberts started off like that, but I don't know. I know you've watched him. We can say he's not like blowing anyone away, but he's getting better every week. Like,
yeah, I do think he's been better.
He's making plays too.
Yeah, like, I think the whole linebacking core has been much better, because I thought they were hot trash the first couple weeks of the season. I agree. I thought they were really bad. I was really worried about the linebackers, but Roberts has been fine. I just think that, like, I don't know, like, he's kind of like, he's literally Raekwon McMillan, where it's like he can defend the run, but like, every time he's in space, I get nightmares. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not a pretty sight. Like, he's what we call in scouting, he's a railroad player, right? Where like you want him on the tracks going this way, and if he comes off the rails, which means he has to go side to side, he's bad. Yeah. So, that he's a railroad player, which is fine. And I guess PFF doesn't like that, but I agree. I do think he's been better, especially, that one hit where he just blew up the running back
2 weeks ago.
Woo! That was
where he blew up the block and then he went right through it. Yeah,
that was great, man. That got me out of my chair a little bit. I was like, that was great. He's got the big arm brace. Dude, he looks like he's from the 80s with that thing. But he's been better, man. He really has. So again, another good development, just like Bobby, right? Like, guys are starting to, come into their own a little bit, and it's paying off.
Yeah. So, guys, here's a quick weather update for what you can expect on Sunday. And as usual, for you quarter through quarter here, it's going to feel like 87 at kickoff, and then it'll feel about 86 in quarter 2, 85 in quarter 3, and then all the way down to 83 in quarter 4. It's going to be a pretty high humidity percentage by the end, up to 75% humidity. So it's going to, let's run that hurry up, baby. Let's run that hurry up. Let's have them on the field and run that hurry up. So, but there is your weather update. for what you can expect on Sunday, guys. No rain, so it could be another good high scoring affair. I wanted to ask you quickly before we get into the keys and stuff like that. You look at this team. Let's talk about just Justin Herbert for a sec here. Are, is this a team that offensively, when you look at, we talked about, let's not talk about Justin Herbert. Let's talk about this offense for a sec. Let me put this in just one general question answer. We'll get into things because I want to hear your thoughts on this. We talked about how good the defense has been playing, but everyone's talking about, we all know they're choking at the end of the games, but we all know how good offensively they've been playing. Do you think our defense can neutralize this offense pretty easily?
Can they? Yes.
Yeah.
Easily? No, I don't think so. I think this Chargers offense, especially the passing game, is extremely potent.
Okay.
They have a lot of good playmakers. Again, can the Dolphins do it? Absolutely. This is a very good defensive team with a very good defensive staff with plenty of good personnel. Is it going to be easy? Nah, man, it's not. Like Keenan Allen's a damn good receiver.
Yeah.
He's a good
Mike
receiver.
Williams.
Mike Williams, very good receiver. Hunter Henry, very good tight end. The running backs don't pose a ton of problems, but running backs don't matter anyway, so who cares? They got another speed guy, Gayton, whatever. He's been really, really good over the top for them. They have Joe Reed, a guy I really like from Virginia, another playmaker. So can the Dolphins do it? Absolutely. Is it going to be easy? No, it's not. And I know you don't want to get into we'll get into Herbert later, but like he's throwing the ball around the yard a little bit, man. He looks real good. So this could be a fun matchup. I'm really excited to see what the secondary comes out with. If it's a similar game plan to what we saw the past 2 weeks versus Kyler and Jared, or if it's, I almost, in a way, I kind of hope they maybe get away from that and like sit back in zone and make Herbert think a little bit. I think that could be interesting. So we'll see what they do. But this Chargers team has a lot of weapons. I don't think we should. They're 2-6. There's a version of this where they're 6-2, right? Like Justin Herbert threw 2 game-winning touchdown passes last week, and both of them were dropped. And the defense blew the Saints game, and the defense blew the Broncos game. Yeah. So like there's a version of this where they are 6-2, and this is a battle between 2 teams vying for a wild card spot. So I do think that the Dolphins can neutralize the Chargers, but this team's much better than their 2-6 record indicates.
Yeah. I will say he did throw that interception in the Broncos game. So
yeah, he did. But like, you'd expect the defense to make at least one stop down the stretch, man. Come on.
I gotta put something out there, bro.
No,
right?
you're right. You're right.
I gotta put something out there. All right, I gotta give us a shred of hope. Because you're right, man. I mean, they're 5th in the NFL in passing yards per game. They're averaging 284.4 passing yards per game. They're 8th in rushing yards. They're averaging 135.6 rushing yards per game. Third down percentage, they're 46.6. That's pretty good because we're 26, we're 38.9. But I mean, we got the 4th best defense in third down percentage. We're only allowing a 34.4 clip. And here's the thing, they're only scoring about 25.6 points per game, which is 17th best. And after last week, we dropped down to the 4th best scoring defense. We're only allowing about 20.1. So I agree with you that defense, that offense is potent, but here's the thing. I don't think he's seen a secondary like what he's about to see right here. And I don't think he's seen a coach like Flores, I don't want to call a defensive mastermind or genius, but someone who can work the puppets from the strings defensively, right? I think he's going to be in for a little bit of a rude awakening because I'm going to go out before we even get into the predictions later. I'm seeing 2 or 3 picks from this kid. I'm seeing it, man. So I think X is going to bait him in too. So, but I agree with you, man. They're potent. They're one of those teams they can turn on. If they could finish, you'd be 110% right. They'd be 6-2 right now, probably, right? And then we'd be even more afraid of what's about to walk in right now. But, let's just hope they don't turn that trend around against us this week, right? So, all right. So let's get into the keys that have been identified. So let's start off offensively, Dante. When you look at the offensive keys here, the first one that I identified here was play mistake-free football. We're not a team that's built to come from behind, a few scores, especially with a rookie quarterback now at the helm right now. And we all can all agree, Tua is the type where he can shake everything, shake the last play off and live for the next. So, that's that's pretty basic, but I also think we don't want to, because of how potent you said this defense is, Dante, we don't want to give them more chances than what they earn. You know what I mean? So I've got that. And this second one I want you to expand on here because I want your thoughts. I put feed Salvin Ahmed because I really liked what I saw in his 7 carries he had, especially compared to what we're getting from Jordan, the pylon Howard right now. And they kept going back to Howard. Like, why does Howard have 10 carries when you got 25 carries between your, you know what I mean? Like, no, just stop it. Okay. So I'm putting feed Salvin Ahmed unless Breida's back, then, I'm down for splitting it between both of them. But Laird, we all knew what we were going to get. Jordan Howard, I mean, Dante, I could hand you the ball off and say fall forward, and you're probably going to give me better results. So, I mean, I should put Breida there too. So let me amend that. Feed Salvin Ahmed and Breida bracket if Breida's healthy. So I want to get your thoughts on the running game right now currently. I also want to hear your thoughts on, because I've been telling everyone, now you're seeing why they were willing to go 2 years to Le'Veon Bell. Okay, because of his ability to run and catch and what they could do with him in this offense, right? I want to just get your thoughts on the state of the running game right now and on terms of this Sunday feeding Salvin Ahmed and Breida if he's there.
One of the things that one of my takeaways from watching the All 22 last week is that this team needs a competent running back going forward. And, I just made a joke last segment about, running backs don't matter. And I agree with that to a certain extent, right? Like, you do need a certain level of competency back there, right? As for feeding Salvin Ahmed, I agree. I would much rather see him get carries than Jordan Howard. There's a exponentially higher chance that he's going to run it 20 yards versus Jordan Howard, right? Like, Howard, look, he's basically a fullback. We're being honest. That's what he is. He's a fullback. He's a short yardage goal line fullback. That's what he is. And we overpaid him for that. It's a horrible contract. It's a horrible signing. That's where we're at. Salvin Ahmed, not a guy that I loved coming out, but he's fast. He's explosive. I would much rather see him get the football than Jordan Howard. There are just infinitely better things that can happen when he gets the football than Jordan Howard, right? Like, it's just like Jordan Howard, what? He's going to get 9 yards at best, right? Like, that's his ceiling, probably. He's not going to break a big run. Who's he going to run by? Nobody. So, like, Salvin Ahmed, he might run by somebody. His vision's not great. His contact balance is bad. But if you open up a hole, and he hits it hard enough, he might be gone. Jordan Howard's not going to be gone. They'll catch him after 12 yards if it's really that big of a hole. So, again, like, I'm totally good with that. Man, Matt Breida, I am so upset about the way he's been used this year. I have been, the second they made that trade, man, I was all over that. I was like, give me Matt Breida 15 times a game. Screen passes, swing passes, draw plays, just something. Get the ball in this. He's the only dude who has juice on the team, and they just like don't give him the football for some reason. It's just really infuriating. So obviously the O-line needs to play better in front of these guys as well. I don't think our run blocking this year has been particularly good. I think Solomon Kinley was doing that, but I don't know if he's starting or what's up with that this week. We talked about that pre-show, but the run blocking hasn't been great in front of them. But I agree. Give Solomon Ahmed the football. I don't need anything to do with Jordan Howard. He does not excite me. He is not remotely interesting. He is not remotely explosive. Salvin Ahmed, I mean, he's better right now, and that's sad because Jordan Howard was a good running back at one point. He really was. But he's just doesn't seem like he's that player anymore. So, yeah, feed Salvin Ahmed. I'm all for it.
What's my problem? You know what my problem is, Dante? Because you're right. Even like if Breida's healthy too, he fits in this category. With Breida or Ahmed, there's the potential of a big play, whether it's a 20-yard run, a 15-yard scamper, a touchdown taking the house. The potential is there, right? My thing is with Jordan Howard is I feel like every play is a wasted play until he shows me otherwise. Like what? He's had one rush this year beyond 5 yards. I
Yep,
think it
it
is
was
right.
a 9-yard rush
Yeah,
at the end of
last
the
game,
game.
right?
Yep.
Like, dude, like it feels like here's my thing, Dante. It feels like you're giving the defense free passes when you hand the ball off to Jordan Howard. You know what I mean? Like, I implore you after we're done, Dante, go back and watch my live reaction video from this past weekend. Go watch remember when they started giving Jordan Howard the ball when we were pressed up against the goal line a little bit back
Yeah,
at our own 10.
When Tua threw out of it to Parker, right?
Bro,
On the
I
hitch
was
route.
I was
Yeah.
go watch the live reaction, bro. People were telling me you need to chop it up and make that a video. I was losing it, bro. I was losing it because I was like, what is Chan Gailey? Like I was telling Chan Gailey needs to get his ass down from, from the press box and start walking the sideline. Like, what is going on? Like, I was losing it, bro. Because my thing is, Dante, you're not putting your quarterback in a position to be successful when he's on the field. And you're especially not doing that when you're giving away those downs, like I said, you're doing when we're pressed up in our own 10 with a rookie quarterback. You need to at least get 2 yards because 3rd and 6 is a lot more manageable than 3rd and 9. That's just how it is, man. So, like, I got a real serious problem with this Jordan Howard experiment. Like, they had him a healthy scratch. We all know, Dante, if they brought Le'Veon in, who was going to be standing in the unemployment line? It was going to be Jordan Howard. We all know this. It wasn't going to be even Patrick Laird. So why are they all of a sudden thinking they're going to get something out of him? I just don't understand the logic behind it, man. So, and something you said there kind of segues into the third key here. Offensive line needs to hold up in the run and pass. We were talking before we went live, and let's talk about specifically Robert Hunt right now. I had him graded as a guard. I'm pretty sure you had him graded as a guard too. I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
People have said I'm hard on him or that I'm not giving the kid a chance because I said he's just showing you that he's a guard. He is what we told you he was. He's a guard. That's all. And people are saying I'm being hard on him and you got to give him a chance. It's only been a couple of days, a couple of games. Dante, is he a guard? Because I don't think he has a prerequisite feet, or lower half athleticism to be a tackle in the NFL. And B, when you look at all this offense, Austin Jackson, if he can get into the rhythm he was in before he got hurt, I understand Russ will be okay on that side. As you look at this offensive line as a whole, I know you're saying it wasn't that good. Just give me your thoughts on what has been good, what hasn't been good, and give me your thoughts on Robert Hunt as a tackle or a guard.
All right, well, I'll start with Robert Hunt. Like you mentioned, I had him graded as a guard coming out of school, and I thought he was a very good guard. I thought he was a top 100 player in a good draft class, and I think he was a top 10 guard for me. He might have been a top 7 guard. I don't remember my board off the top of my head, but I thought he was a good football player at guard. And the Dolphins drafted him, and they immediately said, I believe, we're going to play him at tackle. And I'm pretty sure I came on this show with you and complained about the fact that I thought he was a guard on this show. So, look, I think Hunt he's not a horrible tackle, right? Like, I think we've seen worse, especially in Miami. But I don't think there's anything wrong with saying that he's a better guard than he is a tackle. I think Dolphins fans get upset about that, but what is wrong with that? The Dolphins need a guard. You know what I mean? Like, they need more interior players. I don't know what the problem is. There's the one sack that he gave up where Marcus Golden, I think it was, he bent under him like a table. And brother, my man was absolutely waist bending right there. That was full waist bend. He has no hip flexibility to be playing tackle in the NFL. It's just not going to happen.
Dante, and can I get your thoughts just quickly?
Yeah,
because what I was telling everyone was people would ask me, okay, why is he not a tackle? This is what I said. I said, not only he doesn't have the feet, but I would tell people he has a problem with guys who can convert power to speed and got that bend, athletic bend. From what you saw with Marcus Golden, that's kind of what you're explaining, no?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm explaining, right? Like, because when we talk about, in the scouting community, when we say a guy can't play tackle, There's a couple of reasons why. The top three, first is length. Robert Hunt's got that covered. He's long. That's not the problem. The second is feet. You got to be quick out there. Guys are fast, especially in the NFL. You ever see Von Miller get off the line, brother? You got to be quick with your feet. All right. And then, you got to have hip bend. When we talk about waist benders, it's guys that bend at the waist instead of the knees, right? Because if you bend at the knees, you're squatty or you're more compact. You can absorb power, you can get and position yourself better. When you bend at the waist, you're off balance, and that's when you get beat. And Robert Hunt just isn't athletic enough, or at least right now. Again, he could drop some weight, he could develop. I get all those things, but I just think he's a better guard. He's built like a guard. He plays like a guard, too. That's the other thing. It's not like, Austin Jackson, right? I was critical of him. Austin Jackson's not a guard at all. That dude's a tackle, right? And it's not because I had Robert Hunt graded higher than Austin Jackson coming out. You want to know the truth? I thought he was a better football player coming out. And positional value aside, right? Hunt's a mauler. He's powerful. He's in the trenches. Him and Solomon Kinley as the two guards of the future of this team would be killer, I think. I think that would be awesome. They're perfect. They're exactly what this coaching staff wants to do. They're power run guys. I just don't think he's a tackle. I really don't. And look, he might be the best right tackle on the team, though, which is kind of where we get to that point of sure, we can yell at the Dolphins to put them at guard, but they might come back and be like, look, he's also the best right tackle on the team. And honestly, I might not be able to disagree with that. So that tells you that we need another tackle still. And I think that's really the lesson here, is that there's nothing wrong with Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt is who he thought he was. It's like that famous Dennis Green quote from back in the day. They are who we thought they were. Robert Hunt is who I thought he was. And, I just think the Dolphins need another tackle. I just think that's the end of the story, really. Nothing bad about Austin Jackson. Nothing bad about Robert Hunt. You need 5 offensive linemen. The Dolphins have a couple. I think Hunt's a guard. I don't think it's anything bad. I don't think, if you're a Dolphins fan, I don't think that should upset you. I really don't. He's a good football player. He's just a little bit out of position right now.
Mm-hmm. I agree, man, 110%. Because I've been telling everyone, if we get that top 5 pick, that top 4, that top 3 pick, Penei Sewell all day, man. Don't even.
Yeah,
I'll run to the podium for the Dolphins. Okay.
Me too, man.
Can you just tell people, because I know a lot, because I've been getting a lot of my viewer base gassed up on him. Can you just give everyone your thoughts on Penei Sewell, the tackle?
Man, he is going to end up being so I started scouting prospects in 2017. And I've learned a lot since then, and I've grown and I've learned a lot of things. However, he's going to end up being my highest graded tackle prospect of all time. And I don't think it's going to be remotely close. I actually think he's going to beat Tristan Wirfs by a decent margin. This is a player who is about a year older than me and is absolutely freaking dominant in every single sense of the word. He's a absolute bulldozer in the running game. He has some of the best movement skills at the position I've ever seen. He could play tight end if he wanted to at his weight right now. I really think. Honestly, I think he would outrun Durham Smythe in the 40, if you want my honest to God truth. So, and that's not even a slight at Durham Smythe. It's just that is how freak of an athlete Penei Sewell is from Oregon, man. Just an absolute monster, fast, quick, technically sound, powerful. There isn't a box for me that he doesn't check. His arms are a little bit stubby, a little bit, but honestly, I don't care because he's quick enough to overcome that, So it's just this kid is going to be, I would be shocked at the worst. He's a Zach Martin, Brandon Sheriff type guard. That's his floor, right? That's a crazy high floor, man. That's and ridiculous. His ceiling is Tyron Smith type franchise left tackle. So that's the type of stuff that you're dealing with here. This is a great football player. If everything goes right for him and he's healthy, and and he is right now, and he's not playing the Pac-12 this year, thank God, because that conference is burning to the ground as we speak right now. So as long as everything goes right for him, man, I will be shocked if he's not at a minimum a Pro Bowl caliber tackle or an all-pro caliber guard. I mean, he is just so freaking special. And the crazy thing about it is he's young still. He
I
hasn't
know.
even played that much football, and he's only going to get better. So, yeah, I mean, if we're in a position to draft him with that Texans pick, man, they better run that thing to the podium. Like the clock shouldn't even get past like 150. It should take
Yeah.
5 seconds for them to write the card and run to the podium. So he's insane, man. He's such a good football player.
Yeah, I was having this discussion with EM because he's come around too in terms of like drafting a tackle, and he started watching on Panay after he just heard me going on about him. Because the one thing I told EM on one of our streams was, and guys, we're gonna get into defensive keys next after this, was my biggest man crush every year, last year, besides two everyone knew, I was preaching his name since last October, was Tristan Wirfs. I was just in love with him, right? I told EM, you know, Panay basically makes Tristan Wirfs look like an unathletic bum. You know what I mean? And we all know how good Tristan Wirfs' combine was. Like they're not even in the same realm, and that's how. And we just talked before we went live. I was talking about how Tristan Wirfs you could make is probably the best right tackle in football right now, right? But I mean, I want to get your thoughts on this because I've been an advocate of you draft Panay because I believe the second most important position after the quarterback is his blind side. And so that's why I believe in moving Panay there, just our best player. Let Austin, the weaker one out of the two, deal with the oncoming traffic that Tua can see. I want to get your thoughts on if you were to draft a guy like that. Would you kick him to right or keep him at left? And on top of that, another kid I've been telling everyone about for quite some time on my platform that I really love is Abraham Lucas. Is that someone you would potentially target if you miss out on a guy like Panay or something like that?
Yeah, I think for the first question, I would talk to Sewell and I would say, what position do you want to play? And whatever answer comes out of his mouth is what position he's going to play for me. It's if you draft because if we draft him, he's going to be a top 5 pick. So I'm not particularly interested in teaching my top 5 pick a new position if I do not have to, because I need him to be a hit. I need him to be a franchise cornerstone player. So if I ask him, if I sit down in a room and I say, where do you want to play? And he tells me left tackle, Austin Jackson's beat. Go learn the right side. If he comes in and he's serious about it and he really says, I'll play anywhere, I don't care, fine. We can try him at the right side. But like he needs to be a cornerstone player if you draft him in the top 5. So wherever he wants to play is where he's playing. If he's serious and he thinks, look, I'll learn the right, it's totally fine, it doesn't matter, cool, great. And I get your argument, right? Where like, the blind side is important. Tua is a lefty. I understand that. Both tackle spots for me personally are equally important. There are crazy good pass rushers in the NFL on both sides. For me, that, again, they're pretty much the same, honestly, for me at least. And I know people have different opinions on that, and that's fine. I get it. But Sewell, I think, can play both spots. I wouldn't see any problem moving him anywhere. And that's one of the advantages of taking him, right, in the top 5 is that, like, he's athletic enough to play anywhere and he's powerful enough to play anywhere. And then for your next question, Abraham Lucas. Lucas, to me, stylistically, reminds me a lot of Austin Jackson as far as strengths and weaknesses are concerned. He's the left tackle for Washington State. Lucas is, and he is a really good pass pro player, which about is what you expect from a Washington State tackle, right? Because Mike Leach was there the past couple of years. They throw the ball like 75 times a game. I don't know if he can run block. I don't know if he's powerful. I think he struggles taking on bigger, thicker dudes, especially when they get into his chest. However, I really like the tools. I think his feet are really nice. I think he has good technique. I think he's long. I think he's athletic. So there's a lot of good stuff there. So if that's the type of tackles that the Dolphins want, right? That's their prototype at the position, the Austin Jackson types, the long, athletic, raw players. Yeah, I think Abraham Lucas is a good target for the Dolphins outside of the first round. We'll see what he looks like this year for Washington State. They've got a new system in there. I think they're running the run and shoot or some crap. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of Pac-12 football this year. They keep canceling all the games. So I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, Lucas is an interesting option. I think it all comes back to whether or not that's the Dolphins' prototype at tackle. We'll see. I kind of hope it isn't, but you never know. If that's what they want to do at tackle, that's what they want to do. So Lucas could be interesting. Yeah, I think that's a good pick out by you because he reminds me a little bit stylistically of Austin Jackson. He's a spitting image of Andre Dillard, who was the Eagles' first round pick, which is not exactly gone swimmingly, but he's also been hurt a lot too, so it's hard to really get on him. But yeah, Lucas is an interesting name. This is a really good tackle class in
He
general.
also has snaps at right tackle too. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah, I think he's played both sides for
Yeah.
Washington State. I think,
My thing is Dante.
yep.
The true right tackle class this year sucks compared to last year. Like Jedrick and Tristan at the top. Like I
Yep.
know they kicked Jedrick to left, but you don't have anything nowhere near that at the top of the true right tackle. Like you're gonna have to convert this year. Like if you want a blue chip guy, you're gonna have to convert him. That's why I said Panay. You might as well. You know what I mean? Like, and I get what you're saying. If you're going top 5, I get what you're saying. You know, that comes down to a player decision, right? So I get that 110%. But that's my issue. Like, I don't know. Give me your, before we get into defensive, give me your thoughts. Do you think the right tackle class, like specifically right tackle class, is really weak compared to last year?
Yeah,
Because you even had Lucas Niang, right? Like,
yeah,
and
I
was
Niang
a huge fan. Yeah, I was a huge fan.
me too.
Just injuries.
Yeah, I think he made the Chiefs roster and everything. I think he's just their backup right now. But
yeah, bro, you know what they're doing? They're not going to pay Mitchell Schwartz because he's like 31, right?
So yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah,
yeah, smart, good football team.
Man. Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you're right. You know, the right tackle class is a little bit weak. I don't typically like even really note those things on scouting reports because for me, it's just like, you know, you're either a tackle or you're not type thing. You know, some guys are more comfortable. I get that, but yeah, I think you're right. I do think it's a little bit weaker. With that said, I do think this is a very good tackle class. This is a good year to need a tackle in general. But yes, I do think you will have to convert them. Most likely, a lot of guys play on the left side, but Penei Sewell is runaway OT1 for me. I think he will be for a lot of people. And I don't know if there's another tackle that I would take inside the top 10. But when you start moving into the middle of the first round, so maybe with the Dolphins pick and not the Texans pick, I think there's a ton of guys that I would consider in that range. You know, Dylan Raduns from North Dakota State is really impressive. Jackson Carman from Clemson, if you're looking for somebody more powerful.
Love Carman, man.
Yeah. So there are.
And I think Leatherwood's overrated. I think Leatherwood's overrated because I've had a lot of Alabama fans come here. I'm not saying he's not good. But I don't think a lot of people are thinking he's a top 10 pick. I think Alex Leatherwood.
He's a guard.
Yeah,
I think
I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah, so I actually think the other Alabama tackle might be better than him, but we could talk about that more towards the draft. But
I agree.
It's a good tackle class, so I think that's something that works in the Dolphins' favor.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the defensive keys here. So when you look at it, it's a lot of Herbert based, brother, and it'll segue into our matchup. But
he's playing good, man.
Yeah, but this is how you're gonna get to that offense. So I said, because I know we talked about it before we went live, the thing about the Saints is I talked to you. I noticed he's not as great when you start forcing him to what I call big boy throws outside the numbers. He's not as that. You see the accuracy start to dip because he has to start throwing with anticipation and really good ball placement. And you know, you can tell he's relying on his arm strength a lot more than ball placement and anticipation right now. And then I got get pressure on Herbert. It was gonna to make him uncomfortable, but it didn't get finished there. But yeah, that's just get pressure on Herbert to make him uncomfortable because I mean, again, you want to rattle a young kid early and often. And number 3, force Herbert through his progressions. Don't just give him first and second reads. So you can see this is Herbert based right now because, you know, am I worried about Kalen Ballage? No. Bobby McCain took him out of his cleats in training camp. And like I said on Twitter, I hope Bobby McCain takes Kalen Ballage's soul from him this Sunday. Joshua Kelly, for some reason, I was really high on this kid in terms of a day 3 pick we could have made before the Breida trade. Guess good thing we didn't make that trade because he hasn't been that great since he's been there. So I'm not worried about the run game. But when you look at him, Dante, you know, I think we have the corners, especially on the boundaries, where we can close windows a lot closer than what he's seen so far. I think we got two guys on opposite sides that can set the edge and get pressure off the edge, and they can make nightmares for him. Raekwon's getting better. Raekwon Davis is getting better week by week, as you're probably seeing the all-22. Thing is, he's learned how to constantly get behind the line of scrimmage. It's just whether it's a false step or a brain fart, he just can't make the play behind. You know what I'm saying, though? You've seen it, right?
He got his ankles broke like twice against the Cardinals. Man, that was brutal. He came screaming into the backfield, and Kyler Murray just like, doop, he wasn't even there. Dude, that was brutal.
He even did it the week before in the run game where he got back there and just he couldn't make the play. But and then I just look at like here's another thing. How many times has Herbert been really tested going to that third, fourth progression consistently? I want to make things difficult on him, whether it's confusing him pre-snap to post-snap, whatever, giving him coverages he hasn't seen yet. I really think we are the perfect defense, both coaching-wise and personnel-wise, to give him fits and confuse him and to make him uncomfortable. So, Dante, you see the three keys in front of you. Let's get your thoughts. And anything you want to add, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to start by saying that, like, Justin Herbert's been really freaking good this year. Like, he has made some Patrick Mahomesian-esque plays this season. Like, this is a good NFL quarterback. However, I do agree with you that the Dolphins defense is well equipped to knock him off his game, and that's what they're going to have to do this week. They're going to have to break the streak here because Herbert's played well in every game that he's played. Has he made a couple of mistakes? For sure. But he has overwhelmingly been the best quarterback on the field in pretty much every game he's played this season. So the Dolphins defense is going to have to come out and knock him off his game. And I think you highlight three things here that are going to be really important. Forcing the throws to the sidelines. Look, the Chargers just love attacking the middle of the field because they have so many receivers that are speed guys, right? In the slot, they have a lot of good natural separators, something that the Dolphins are missing. Keenan Allen can separate from pretty much anybody at will. I think he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. It doesn't get enough run. He's fantastic. So, again, I think that all these keys are going to be very important. I think the easiest one that the Dolphins can obtain is pressure. The Chargers' offensive line isn't good. They're not. They're bad. They're just straight up not good. And this team has been very adept. We even saw it in the 49ers game. It was a bit different of a strategy, but they were able to create consistent pressure on Garoppolo and eventually Nick Mullins in that game. And I think CJ Beathard also played in that game, now that I think about it. But again, like they've been able to generate pressure through blitzes and sometimes even through showing blitz and then not blitzing, right? Like they've been able to confuse offensive lines. They've been able to confuse quarterbacks. So I'm hoping that that's where they get Herbert off their game. With that said, one thing that we saw last week, and Herbert is not the same caliber of athlete as Kyler Murray. That's not what I'm saying. However, he is not a statue back there. He can move. And when you blitz as much as the Dolphins do, the quarterback run starts to become a problem. We saw Kyler go for over 100 last week. We saw Cam Newton burn them early in the season, and we've seen Josh Allen burn them in the past. Herbert is not quite that type of athlete, but he's close. And I do think the Dolphins will have to be careful about that when they get pressure on him, right? Because eventually he's just going to start bailing out of there. And if they clear a little bit of a hole in the middle, Herbert will burn you for 20 plus yards. He is a good athlete. So the Dolphins will have to take risk management into consideration here. But I agree, right? Like they need to generate pressure. Get this kid off of his spot. Make him make plays. If he goes out and makes the plays, whatever. That's the defense in the NFL, man. Sometimes you get beat. But make him make those plays. Force him. And I think the last one's really important too, right? Herbert, one of the things at Oregon, and I really liked Herbert at Oregon, and I know that's an unpopular opinion. I was high on him. This is not as big a surprise for me as it has been for some people. I thought he was a good quarterback. But one thing that he did struggle with at Oregon was getting to those second and third reads at times, right? And I think some of that was a product of the Oregon offense because we've seen Herbert improve. However, with that said, any quarterback you can force to get to his second, third, and fourth reads is always a plus, right? Because the first read is oftentimes the best look. And that's why they designed the play that way. So anytime you can get a quarterback to his second or third read, that's a plus. Now, where it becomes an extra plus for the Dolphins is ideally that gives them extra time to then take advantage of a bad Chargers offensive line and get to Herbert, right? So that's where I'm more interested in getting him to his second and third read. It's not, I think he's going to throw a bunch of interceptions, or I don't think that he's accurate to his second or third read. It's that gives me more time for Emmanuel Ogbah to beat up on Trey Pipkins. You know what I mean? Like that's where I think the Dolphins can really win this game here. So again, I think Herbert is very, very good, but the Dolphins have the personnel, like you said, and the coaching staff to be the team that stops him this week, right? Because and one thing I will want to say is I want somebody to shadow Keenan Allen the entire game, slot, outside. I do not care. I don't know if that's Byron Jones. I don't know if that's Xavier Howard. Whoever the coaching staff deems that to be, that's where I want them. I want them on Keenan Allen the entire game. If you take Keenan Allen away from Justin Herbert, I think you're really
Yeah,
gonna.
I agree.
I think you're really gonna struggle, because and look, Herbert's been great and he's made a ton of really good plays. He's going to be a problem for the next probably 10 years, especially if he keeps playing like this. Keenan Allen does bail him out a fair amount of the time because I mean he's just always open, right? So if you can take Keenan Allen out of the game, I think that would be huge. Again, I don't know if that's Byron. I don't know if that's Howard, whoever it is, if it's a combination of the both. I would like to see one of those two guys follow Keenan into the slot. I don't want to see Noah Igbenogany anywhere near Keenan Allen. Not anywhere near. I don't want to see Nick Needham anywhere near Keenan Allen. Not even close. Eric Rowe, maybe. Still don't love it. Much rather see Xavier Howard and Byron Jones there. So yeah, these are the three keys, right? Against any quarterback, but especially against a rookie. You make him think, make him rattled. We'll see what we got this week. I'm really interested to see what the game plan looks like. Is it the same thing that they did to Kyler and Goff to varying degrees of success, or do they sit back and make Herbert think? That's what I would do personally, but there's a reason I'm not a defensive coordinator. So we'll see what Brian Flores does. It's going to be really interesting because Herbert's been really good this year.
I mean, and with that, let's get into our matchup to watch. And that's simply, I mean, Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, Eric Rowe, Nick Needham, and Bobby McCain are slot, two boundary corners, and two safeties against Justin Herbert. Because, I mean, you know, it kind of goes hand in hand with what you're just saying. I am fully on board with you. I always talk about how I think Tyler Lockett is one of the most underrated receivers in the NFL. I think Keenan Allen falls under that as well too, and that's also because he gets hurt, so people hold that against him. But I mean, I agree with you. You take Keenan Allen away, and that's a whole lot of Herbert's first read. And I mean, this defense, and you know, if they game plan for that slot, because I agree with you, Dante, whether it's been flags or just straight out play, Needham's been very up and down this year. And he's going to have to be on his game. But, I mean, you look at this secondary going up against Justin Herbert again. I mean, give me your thoughts on this. Do you think this is going to be, secondary-wise, Herbert's toughest test of the season so far?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think if you're just basing it off personnel, I think the Dolphins have a top 5 secondary in the league. So, yeah, I think easily this is going to be his biggest test so far. You know, and again, this will be I think this will be a good test for the Dolphins defense as well, just because of how potent this team has been. You know, they like to mess with your eyes. They do a lot of really interesting play concepts. So it's going to be a test for both sides. And I think it's going to be fun. And I'm glad this is the matchup to watch because I think this is the best one easily. You know, we'll see. Again, I hope they take away Keenan Allen. That's the big one for me. Mike Williams is a good football player for sure, and
Yep.
Jalen Gutton, the other speed guy that they have, is also a good football player. So they've got weapons, but I think if you can take Keenan Allen away, you take away a huge part of that offense. And I think that would be huge. I don't know who that guy is. I would probably guess it's Xavier Howard would be my guess, but we'll see. Byron Jones kind of struggled a little bit last week, didn't have his best game, so I would assume it's Howard, but I do think they need to focus on that because if they leave Nick Needham and Noah Igbenogany on Keenan Allen, it's going to be a long day on Sunday. It's just not – that is a recipe for straight disaster. But yeah, this is going to be Herbert's biggest test. This is a very good Dolphins secondary. They have the personnel to man up with these guys and give them fits. And I'm assuming we're going to throw a lot of different coverages at them as well. So we'll see. I'm just really interested to see what the game plan is going to look like from a pressure standpoint from the secondary too. Is Eric Rowe going to be a blitzer like we saw the past couple of weeks? How well is Bobby McCain ranging on the back end? Do they help him? Are they playing a lot of cover zero, a lot of cover one? But I think if they can take away Keenan Allen, shadow him around the field, this is a very, very manageable game for the Dolphins secondary.
Let me get your thoughts on this. What are your expectations for Tua and this offense going up against this defense before we get into predictions here? What are your expectations? Because now we've seen them kind of take the handcuffs off of Tua a little bit. We saw how well he played last week, and it seems like the trajectory is only up from here. So, and it looks like, you look at our defense against their defense, Tua's got an easier task in front of him than Justin Herbert does. That's why the Herbert versus our defense is the matchup to watch. But you're looking at Tua this weekend. I want to know, what are your expectations specifically for Tua against this Chargers defense now that we've talked about Herbert against this Dolphins defense?
My expectations are high for Tua. I think I don't think that's a bad thing given, he played really well against the Cardinals. I would wager the Cardinals defense is probably better than the Chargers defense that we're going to see on Sunday. So my expectations are pretty high. And honestly, again, I'm a huge proponent of this. And if you follow my work, you know this. I'm a big throw the ball around the yard guy. You know what I mean? Especially with a rookie quarterback. I don't like playing with kids' gloves with players. And don't let them, let them drown if they drown. Let Tua go out there and throw the ball 35 times. I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel. And I think that plays to their advantage in this matchup. I don't, obviously Preston Williams is out, but you can scheme up, plenty of space against this defense. These guys are not elite athletes. These are not elite coverage guys like Byron Jones and Xavier Howard and Eric Rowe and against tight ends. You have mismatched weapons in Mike Gesicki and Devontae Parker that you can take advantage of this week. Let's get Lynn Bowden into space a couple of times. Let him make a couple guys miss. There are ways for the Dolphins to generate yards against this defense. So I have high expectations for Tua this Sunday. I think he goes for 300 plus and multiple touchdowns. I think that's where I'm at with this week. The Chargers defense, especially with Bosa out, if Bosa was in, I think that changes things because you don't want to call too many vertical routes and let Bosa get more than 3 to 4 seconds against Robert Hunt or Austin Jackson. Can't say I'm in love with that matchup. So he's out, which is great. And I think that opens things up for me. That makes me significantly less scared of the Chargers, who, they run they kind of run a hybrid defense at times. I don't really know what they're doing over there. They seem to be bouncing back and forth between formations because they keep blowing fourth quarter leads. So we'll see what they come out with against Tua, but man, I don't know. I'm not, especially with Derwin James out too. He hasn't played really at all this year, and I don't think he's played at all. So nobody in the secondary really scares me for the Chargers. So I expect Tua to come out and have a big game, and I hope the Dolphins will let him have a big game. Let's take the kid gloves off. You drafted this dude at number 5 overall, right? There's no there's no argument for me oh, we're playing it safe, blah blah blah. Let the kid make mistakes now. You're playing with house money. You're not expected to compete this year. 5-3 is, I think, a general surprise to most people. Maybe not Dolphins fans who are, very happy, right? They're very into their team and they always predict them to be good. And I get that. But look, you're playing with house money. Let Tua throw the ball 40 times. You know what I mean? I don't see what you have to lose by letting him throw the ball 40 times. I really don't. So I hope they do that. I'm expecting a big day from Tua, and I do think he has a big day. I'm fairly confident that the Dolphins offense will score 30 plus in this game. I think it'll be a little bit of a shootout, but obviously we'll get into that with game predictions. But yeah, I think it'll be a big day for Tua. I really do.
And before we get into those game predictions, and that was almost a perfect segue, but smash that like button, guys. There's 190 of you in the room right now. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new here. If you'd like to donate to the channel, paypal.me/Finside. You can also donate through the super chat. If you'd like to become a Patreon, there's already 16 of you. Join the 16 other Finside the NFL Patreons at patreon.com/Patreon. And as usual, shout out to every single one of our Patreons. We appreciate every one of you. And as usual, here's your shout out: Infinite Trauma, Rhino Sit, the original, First Two, Fake Spike 94, Shake Money, Shake, Joe B, KL Day, Ramon Casillas, Seth, Mr. Two Bits, Slim Pickin, Ricketic, Big Time, Red Dino, Marinos Go Conflict, and Keith Davis. Appreciate each and every one of our Patreons. And guys, patch5s.com, use the code FINSIDE for 25% off. You like that Sheila 347 patch? They've got it available there. Go use the code FINSIDE for 25% off. And then, guys, grab official Finside the NFL merch, teespring.com/stores/Finside the NFL. 5 different designs, including the famous Josh Rosen bus tickets out of Miami meme. So go check that one out, guys. You'll enjoy it. So let's get into your prediction, because you started off saying high scoring. The floor is yours, brother. I want to hear your prediction.
Here's the thing that I struggle with this one. I think the Dolphins are going to win. So I'll preface with that. Now, the problem is the score. The Chargers just never play in a game that isn't close, no matter how good they are or aren't. Like, even when they're bad, right? Like, they weren't good last year, but they lost like all of their games by like a combined average of like 8 points. Like, they just don't seem to play in blowouts. So I don't think this will be a multi-score game. I think the Dolphins win this one 35-28. I think they win by a touchdown. I think they play relatively well. I said they'd score over 30, so I'm going to stick to that. I hope they shut down the Chargers. I really do. But like, the Chargers just don't play in like not close games. Like, they never get blown out. Even if they do, they usually make it a game by the end. Like, they're a really weird football team, man. Like, when Phillip Rivers was there, they just have like all these crazy finishes. They blow fourth quarter leads. They make 20-point comebacks. Weird football team. And it seems like it's systemic. It wasn't just Phillip Rivers, which is even weirder when you consider it. So this is me playing the stats a little bit instead of my head. My head says the Dolphins win by more than 14, but the Chargers don't seem to get blown out. So I'm going to say Miami 35, LA 28.
And guess what, brother? I'm going to do the exact opposite, because Rivers ain't there anymore. I got 34-10. This is my prediction on the finish line with Richmond Webb and Ball Game. It just actually came out a couple hours ago. Just hit Spotify and iTunes, guy. Go check it out. You know why? Because the turnovers. Because I think we're legitimately going to force 2 or 3 turnovers, and then I think it's over confidence-wise for Herbert from there. And I think they're just going to struggle. I don't see him even sniffing 300 yards against us. I see maybe 250 against us for Herbert. Maybe. I see him struggling, man. I see him having his work today. I wouldn't be surprised if he put up Joe Burrow NFL debut, which was like 183 yards and no touchdowns and 2 interceptions. I
hope you're right.
that would not shock me, just because of this defense. So, yeah, you make a whole hell of a lot of sense. Not going to take away from that. You probably make more sense than I do right now. And it's the homer on me, but I said once they took the handcuffs off and they showed me what they could do offensively with the kid we knew that had the potential, that the sky's the limit with in regards to Tua. Now I believe that this offense can consistently put up a high 28, mid to mid 30s consistently if they have to. You know what I mean? So, I mean, wow. 2 totally opposite, but yours a little bit more feasible than mine, probably. Let's be honest with ourselves right now. So, Dante, we got 199 in the room right now. Guys, you can go follow Dante Collinelli on Twitter at Dante Collinelli. His Twitter is below in the description box. Dante, we're hitting an hour and a half. I want to get any final thoughts you have heading into the game on Sunday.
My final thought is I want to see Kalen Balaj get smacked by somebody. We touched on it a little bit. But he actually played, I think he had like 100 total yards of offense last week for the Chargers, which was like kind of insane. I think he had like a touchdown too. So, yeah, let's see him get popped this week. I think that would be fun. That's my final thought on the game.
And yeah, I know he had like 85 yards on the ground. I was like, who's this guy?
Really?
You know what I mean? I was like, Jordan Howard, who? So guys, like I just said, if you can go on iTunes, you go on Spotify, your I guess podcast outlet of choice. Just search in Dolphins Brawl, and right at the top there, number 5 pick against the number 6 pick. That is the latest episode of The Finish Line, featuring me, Richmond Webb, and of course the homie Mr. Ball Game. And we preview this game as well. So go check it out. Go show some love. Go follow Dolphins Brawl. And Dante, again, floor is yours. Go plug everything you have going on right now, brother.
Yeah, so speaking of the Brawl Network, I do the Draft Brawl podcast. So if you're into draft season, come listen to us. We have a really good time. We talk a lot of NFL topics, a lot of college football topics. We're very, very casual on that podcast, but we do talk a ton of NFL content. If you like reading about all 22 and film breakdowns, check out my work at dolphinstalk.com. I do a weekly film breakdown. It started off as me picking a side of the ball and has slowly morphed into overanalyzing Tua every week. So that's what we're doing every week. I'm going to be dropping Tua all 22. Every week I do a thread of every single drop back that Tua takes from the all 22 perspective. So if you're into that, give me a follow. Look at my stuff at Dolphins Talk. If you're into the NFL draft as well, bluechipscouting.com. I post a lot of draft articles there, draft rankings, big boards, mock drafts, all that fun stuff. I'm a busy guy.
And brother, you're talking to the perfect set of subscribers, because it's going to be Tuesday night now, because the way they dropped the all 22 on Monday taught me a lesson. So, but yeah, every Tuesday we break down the all 22 play-by-play here too. So guys, there you go, 2 perspectives you can check out. You can get reasons, then you go over and or whether it comes out before or after, go check out Dante's too. So get even more, be the smartest Dolphins out there when you're sitting around the water cooler. So Dante, man, I just want to say on air in front of everyone, honestly, brother, you're one of my favorite guests, just because you're so knowledgeable. It's just always a great time. I appreciate you taking over an hour and a half out of your Friday night to come out here and talk to all of my subscribers, man. I appreciate you, homie.
Yeah, I love coming on, man. It's a great time. I'm welcome to come back anytime. I love coming on and talking with you guys. It's always great.
Appreciate you, man. So guys, with that, again, you already know what time it is. It's a 4:05 start on Sunday, so I'll be starting at around 3:30, and I'll be on YouTube basically for almost 6 hours after that. So guys, we'll see you on Sunday for the live reaction of the Chargers and the Dolphins into his 3rd start. So until then, guys, y'all already know what time it is. It's fins up all day, every day, and we'll